Welcome back to Silver Thread Sewing. I'm Diane. Today I wanted to show you around my freshly redone sewing room. So, as always, thank you for stopping by my channel. Time is one of the most precious things I think that we have, and we don't ever know how much we're going to have. So to take the time out to visit me and to listen to me yammer on about my sewing stuff, it really means a lot to me, and I'm grateful. I wanted to show you my sewing room before it gets any messier. So, I had done a real quick little sewing room tour a couple weeks ago. I painted the walls in here, and I've really moved everything just about around. I got some big shelves to put my fabric on, and I've got everything to where it's accessible now. Got all my sewing machines out where I can use them. When I originally started this little project, I thought, oh, it won't be hard. It'll be fine. I'll just get it done and it'll be done. But it took me a long time. I overestimated my ability, and I underestimated the amount of work that was going to be involved. But I'm happy it's done. When I first finished it, I'll be honest, I was a little bit not let down exactly and not disappointed exactly, but I was a little less than happy with how things were, because it doesn't look a whole lot less cluttered than it did when I started. So before, I had all my fabric in these big totes, these big bins with lids underneath my cutting table. And to get a piece of fabric, I knew it was in some of those bins, but I would have to drag them out. And I had about 8 or 9 under there. And big ones, deep bins. And every time I needed a fabric, I think, oh, I know I have a fabric. But then I would have to start hunting and pulling those bins out. And they were heavy. And it was really hard to stay motivated to the point of getting in and hunting for my fabric. And that's a good problem to have. I'm not complaining at all. I'm thankful for every piece of fabric I have. But when I got everything put on the shelves, and got everything put back in here, and the new tables, that's all I bought was these 2 new tables. And I've been saving for those for a while. And I was a little disappointed because I thought, well, it still looks cluttered. It still looks messy. And then, as usually happens, I was watching Friday Sews. I think it was last week, if I'm not mistaken. And Jen from Today in Jen's Sewing Room was talking about her sewing room. She's really redone hers, and it always looks great. But she was talking about the fact that it would never look like a magazine. It would never look like the cover of a magazine, because it's a work room. It's a room where we work, where we drag out our patterns and our fabric, and the floor's usually got threads or scraps or something laying around in the floor, and it's always going to be a little bit messy if we're working in the room. And that's the whole point. It's functional. It has the supplies that we need. Whether or not we need a lot of supplies, I don't need a third of what I have. I don't even know how to use some of the things I have. So, but what I'm saying is, it doesn't need to look like a magazine. It just needs to be our place. I have sewed in the living room a few times. I've sewed in the dining room on the table. I've had the island once. I had to sew there. I had the corner of the basement one time. I've had bedrooms a couple times. So this is the first actual dedicated space I've ever had for a sewing room. So how blessed am I? And I know that. But I did want it to be, I wanted to have a place to put like a full-length mirror. I've got one on the door, but there's not a lot of room between the door and the shelf that's over there. So I can't really look at the clothes or show you guys the clothes in that way. But I started to think about after Jen said that, and it just made so much sense to me. So this is never going to look like a magazine, like she said. It's a place where I love all my things that I love are in this room. Most of them. Greg and Salem are upstairs, so they're not in here. But you know what I mean. All my sewing machines and my junk and my patterns, and so I'm getting ready to start another couple projects, and I thought before I do that, I'm just going to kind of show you the room, show you how it looks. The only thing that I bought for this room, the shelves Greg had, these tables I bought, and I bought a pair of curtains off of some website that I found. Don't think it was Amazon. Might have been Target. Anyway, I ordered them from somewhere. Just a plain little pair of ivory colored curtains. The only reason I put those up was to kind of keep the dust off my fabric. I've got it, all my fabric, every piece of my fabric has been measured, documented on a little tag, rolled up, and then tied with a piece of white yarn and put that tag on it. So when I go to it, I've got my challies in one place, my cottons in one shelf, and it's got my quilt and cottons and all that there too. So the shelves are pretty full, but it's not all fabric for apparel. Some of it's quilting fabric, and I've got other stuff stacked on the top. So I am very happy with the way it's turned out. It's brighter in here. It's easier for me to see. I can now sew on my sewing machines without having to lift one off the table and put one back up. So I wanted to just real briefly just give you a quick look at the room, and then I'll show you how I've organized a few things, and maybe it'll inspire you. Maybe it'll give you some ideas of what you might like to do, and maybe it won't. But I know I personally love to see other people's sewing rooms and see how they work around the problems or the challenges that they might have in their space, whether it's the corner of a room or a big sewing studio or a building out back that's dedicated for it. Anytime that we have a place to put our sewing machine and sit down and sew for a few minutes, it's a relief. It relieves stress, for me at least. It takes my mind off my troubles, usually. Sometimes it causes more troubles than it takes away, but you get the idea. So anyway, I'm going to take you down and take you on a tour of the room, and then I'll show you just a couple of things that I've moved. I'm not going to swear that things will stay where they are now, because sometimes when you start using things and moving around your space, you have to go here to get your pins or here to get your pattern weights, or it just doesn't feel quite correct. So all the big stuff is going to stay where it is. I'm not doing that again. It's too hard and I'm too old. But as far as the little things, I may move some of them around as I start using them, and if it's inconvenient to go get them or something. But anyway, I will show you around just real briefly, and then show you a couple of specific things and how I've got things fixed in my sewing room so I can get started sewing. So when you come in the door of my sewing room, it's still a little bit of a tight squeeze here between my sewing table and my shelf. But I will come in, and I still have my pegboard, and my thread is on the wall there. And I have my Juki here, and all the feet and attachments for it are in that little organizer there. I've had that for a long time. I did too. I had this little carousel, and I did buy 2 more of those, and they were like $7 a piece. I think one's clear and one is this little beige color, but I really do like that. That allows me to keep my utensils and things that I need handy. And then I have my serger down this way. These big drawers are amazing. They're very shallow, but they hold a ton of stuff. Now, underneath the sewing table, I have a little wastebasket here, and I have just a little empty cube thing there. And there I thought I could throw scraps or pieces of fabric and stuff and put them in that. Now, this down here has got some fabric in it, this here, and it's mostly stuff that I've used to make practice garments. Now, over here, these shelves on the top there are some boxes. The box here with the yellow lid, that has some patterns that I have drafted from clothing. Callie has a couple in there, and I have one that my sewing buddy helped me to draft. It's my pants pattern. And then I've got all my tools here, like my bag making tools, and this little thing here, James, my son, got me that, and it's got like snaps and rivets and things, and this is more bag hardware. And Callie and Jonathan had gotten me I think it's supposed to be a bread box. And then Callie had made me this a million years ago, and it's been in a frame all this time. And then the little bag right here, Carol had embroidered that, and she sent me that also. And I'm making this camera really mad, and I'm sorry. Now, my windows look like they are filthy, but I really did just wash them. I even went outside and washed them, but the way the sun's hitting them, they look filthy. But anyway, that's where my jack is. Now, I did make my little curtain, and I was going to make it a white, like a sheer white, and put it all the way down on the window. But I changed my mind because I find that I'm getting a lot of really good daylight from there. And so I decided just to take that strawberry fabric and make a little topper for that window. I can always go back and add a sheer to the bottom of it if I need to later, but I decided to let the light come in because I don't have a lot of light down here. Now up here on top of the big thing, I've got all the hard cases for my machines, and I've also got some scrapbooking materials that I've had for a billion years, and I'm making this thing really mad. So anyway, that's what's there, and that is the same big thing that you've seen a million times. And then I have, here is my sewing light and my little stool that I sit on, and I'll show you these in more detail in just a minute, the bins. Now on my table, I put a little hook, just a little command strip, and I hung my Cricut mats and my wheel, my fabric wheel of fate right there, so it would be handy. On my cutting table, you'll probably never see it this clean ever again. That is my 2 baskets, and they're filled with my rocks that we have painted and made pattern weights. And I've got just a little light right here that's just a little LED light, and it really helps when I'm cutting out anything. When I got this big mat, I thought it was a self-healing mat. Had no clue that it was not. So that mat is getting really, it's got some edges on it. It's got some like sharp places on it because it's damaged. So I have this, and this is a rotary cutting mat, and it's self-healing. But I love the size of this one. I would give, well, I can't afford anything else, but I would someday love to have either one big mat or 2 mats that would fit on this that are self-healing. But for now, I'm not complaining one bit, but I was a little bit mad at myself for not checking that out better because it is not a self-healing mat. Now under here, I still have these 3 little tubs, and I have my Cricut vinyl in this one, and that's my ironing supplies on top of it. In this one is some yarn, and in this one is all my serger thread. Now, it's not even, the bottom's barely covered, but I didn't have anywhere else to put it that it would be easy to get to and clean and stay out of the dirt and dust. So I do have my serger threads in that and some yarn. So anyway, there's still stuff under there, but that's all that's under there. I wish you could see under the back because it's empty back there. I'll put the cord for my light. So here is the shelves. That is where all my fabric now resides. And I am so happy to be able to see it. Now, I hung these little curtains just on tension rods because I didn't want it to get dusty, and I don't want the sun to draw the color out of it. But I liked it better when I didn't have the curtains, but they're easily taken down, so if I need to access my fabric, I can. But that should protect it, and I'll show it to you in the specific little shots that I'm going to put in. Now, all this up here is pretty much quilt stuff. So if I have fabric left over from a project, I'll make bias binding, and I put it in one of those tubs. I think it's the one right here. And then the rest of that is quilt blocks and little things that I've started and never finished, and some of it's felt, and some of it's some bag making stuff that I've started. And that little white bin right here, I just think it's so cute, but it doesn't have anything but other storage things in it. Now then, I come on around here, and you're familiar with my cabinet. That's not changed. I did move my TV to this. I took that shelf that used to be over on the right-hand side here above that big table. I took that down when I put the shelves in here. So my books and all my quilt books and stuff are still in that cabinet. And then my ironing board is sitting there, but I'm not 100% sure where I'm going to leave my ironing board. It's big and I love it because it's big. It's like having another work surface. I like to have it up against something else, and I don't really know where to set it like forever, but it's lightweight and I can move it around as I need to. And when I show you the other things that I've done, I'll show you how I get electricity handy to everything, since the walls are pretty much all covered. Down here I have my elastic, and I'll show you where I've put my 3 bins with stuff in it. But that is pretty much the sewing room. Now, I've not put everything back on the walls like they were. I put some things that are very, very special to me. My dear friend Alan gave me the bears, and Lily, my granddaughter, painted the strawberries, and Callie and I made the little, if you see the seam ripper, it's not a good time. It was crooked. That part of it is kind of sloped, as you can see, and I had never hung it up because of that. I mean, she helped me make it, but it was my idea. So it's not like it was a gift and I'm fussing about it. But I thought, well, I'll wait and redo it. And then I decided, you know what? It's perfect just the way it is. So I hung it up and I'm really happy with it. I did put tried a little bit to put some decoration up there. So I put those flowers. But I have all my scissors and my rotary cutters up here still. I have my curve rulers, and then my thread is like it's been. Only I took every bit of it down and cleaned everything and put it back on the pegs. So now I'm going to show you just a few brief things about the individual places, and then I'm going to let you go. Okay, so my little shelves here, I moved these bins out of that big chest, that blue chest over there. This is all my zippers, and I've got billions of them because I used to make bags, so I've got all kinds of different zippers. And I moved my buttons out of the bin over there. They're all in bags, and they're all together with white tines. And this is a bin of trims and bias tape. That was the little piece of my strawberry fabric that was left from making that curtain, but I didn't want to throw it away, you know, because it's strawberries. And up here I have some CDs and a CD player in my fan. And I believe this is the cup that Andra from Andra Makes. She gave me that a long time ago. And my pens, I've got my, what do you call them? Magic pens in 2 different sizes. This is the blue ones and the purple ones. And then this is glass head pens. And I really love those because you can iron over them. So I leave them out here because one thing, they stick to this. This is just a piece of like foam board, and it's the metal shelf. So the pens, they stick to it. These are magnetic dishes, and I just got those at Harbor Freight. And in case you want to see my children, that was them when they were little. And Jonathan had done somehow metal works, and he made me that. And I've had it for years, so I just put all that right there together. And I made the little doily. That's as big as I could get it and keep it round because I'm not good at stuff like that. And I have my chalk, and then this, I don't know what I put in this. Oh, it's got more pins. Yes, and I put some magnets on the bottom of it, and it has pins in it. And then I have some pencils and writing stuff there. And on the bottom shelf down here, I have, this is the box that my brother's serger came in, but that's actually got my little Juki serger. It's still not fixed. I had it worked on, and it still is not working right. So my Juki serger is in there, and that's the only other machine I have. And then my elastics are there. My sleeve board pressing thing, which is really handy, is right there. And this is some mending and things that I have that I need to take care of. I need to do something to everything that's in there. Now, when I got these curtains, I just put them over the front. And that left this end open. So the pieces that I had cut off the bottom of these curtains, I just kind of sewed them together. I serged them actually and hung those over the end, but they don't go all the way to the floor. so, so that part of my fabric is still showing, and I've got to add a piece to it, maybe a piece of muslin or something, just to keep that part protected. But let me take this down, and then I will show you the fabric that's behind it. So as you can see, I have a ton of fabric. All this top shelf, this little area, and all this is cotton. Some of it's quilting cotton, some of it's cotton that I've inherited from different people when they maybe passed away or when they moved or whatever. So I've taken on several people's fabric stashes over the years, and I'm grateful for it. It's all been washed, it's all clean, and it's all rolled. And let me take a piece down. So what I did was I took every single piece of fabric I had and I measured it. I put the width and how many yards. Everything up here I have at least 1 yard of. And this is an apparel fabric, and I have 3 yards of it. And I rolled it instead of folding it because I felt like it would be better for the fabric not to have as many creases. I don't know how that's going to work. And then I also felt like that it would probably be a little bit better as far as being able to stack it up and keep it all in one place. So I'll put that back there. I hope I'm not making you sick spinning you around. Then all this is my rayon challis. This is a little bit of everything. This is mostly apparel fabric here. I've got a piece of velvet, a stretch velvet. I've got a lot of cottons, but all this is pretty much apparel fabric. And then on down here is flannels and upholstery fabrics, bag making supplies, and then all my knits are right here on this shelf. That's all knit. And I put my sweater knits on the very bottom down there. So this here is all sweater knits. So sitting here in front of my Juki, these sewing tables, they are the Husky workbenches. And I ordered the shortest one I could get, which I think was like 52 inches. And then one of the longest I could get was like 72. And this is the shorter one. But they have these huge drawers. The only bad part about this is they're very shallow. So I had gotten these really cheap. I think I ordered them on Amazon because that's where I could find them at. But they're like 1.25 inches high. But I've got some needles here. I've got my bobbins. I've got my bobbins here for the Juki. And I've got my my bias tape makers, as well as I had ordered these because, again, Carol from Sew Carol, she puts sticky dots on her fabric so she knows which is the right and wrong side. I think she marks probably the wrong side if I'm not mistaken. And I had found these on sale somewhere and I just got them. They're like just little color-coded labels, and I've not even used them yet, but I plan to use them when I cut out a project that I can't tell the right and wrong side from. And then I have another little organizer here. And I don't have a lot in this drawer yet because, like I said, I'll probably be moving things around as time goes on. But this drawer, it has my Q-tips for cleaning out my machine. It has some flannel scraps that I use for cleaning. I have some, I love these things, these fork pins. I don't know how well you can see those, but they are really good when you want to match up like quilt pieces, like if you're doing seams matching. They're great for putting like a waistband of a skirt if you want everything to match up the side seams. So that's fork pins. Some more needles. Have just an empty little box here. Cleaning brushes for my machines. It's got my turning tools. I've got some, that is just I think that was a straw that went with like a Yeti cup, a stainless steel straw, and I find that very handy for turning out corners, as well as some knitting needles that are real handy. So in my little carousels, I have them all pretty much the same kind of things. I have the little seam gauges, which are invaluable. I have like the purple things, but I have different colored ones. Some of them are not all purple. I have tweezers. I have a different kind of a poker tool, turning tool. I have seam ripper. I have an awl. I find these really helpful to like push your fabric through your machine. They're really good. I have a couple of little tiny crochet hooks. I don't know if it'll focus on that, but that's really one of my favorite things to do when I'm serging, to get the tails brought back through. And then here's another turner that I have. So I've got all kinds of gizmos. And I have some, right here is, and I'm terrible at holding the camera. I'm so sorry. But this is just a pair of thread snips. They're really good. And then I have these little tiny scissors, and I have a pair of these, I think, in every one of my little bins. They're really handy, and they've got these cute little covers on them. But they're really sharp, and they're just the perfect size to snip threads. I also have these magnetic pin dishes everywhere. And I put some stickers on my machine. My mama loved butterflies. So every time I see a butterfly, I think of my mama. And I had a couple little strawberry stickers, and I put them around. And moving on up, you've seen my machine. And I have a few little decorative things back there. Callie had drawn this for me a long time ago. And I don't know where I got those. Somebody gave them to me on a gift. And I can't remember exactly where right now. But anyway, all that stuff that people have given me. And then my little brother, Serger, I really like it a lot. And then this is my oldest machine. Greg got me this probably 12 years ago. I don't know. It's a Singer Quantum 9960, and I love that machine. It has been really good. I almost broke it when I was making tote bags and wallets because it just wasn't made to go through that thick of fabrics and thick of materials. And so I had to, I took it in to have it worked on, and they told me that it would cost more to fix it than it was worth, and just to get rid of it. Well, I wasn't going to do that. So I ordered a new bobbin assembly over there, a new bobbin assembly, and I fixed it myself, and it sewed just fine. I have the same stuff in this little carousel pretty much, except I do have this little gizmo, which is for quilting basically, but you can use this to flatten your seams kind of in place of, or till you use an iron. And then in these drawers, now these are super long drawers, but they're also shallow. Now in the bottom one, I have all my rulers. So I have my plastic rulers. I have these little tiny rulers. And if anybody's ever interested in all these, I'll be glad to show you in more detail. Some seam gauges, which are, I have struggled so much with seam allowance. And that really makes it so much easier. And I have two different ones of those. And I put all of them in here so I know where they were. I have this flexi ruler, which is great to like measure the crotch curve and things like that. I have a hip curve, and all this, just about all these came from Waywack. And then I have this L square, have a T square, and I'm not nearly good enough to have all that. I don't know how to use half of it, but it does help to keep things straight. I have, this one broke, now it's the other one that broke. So I have these curve rulers, and this one you might be able to see just there. It broke, and I glued it back together, but I was afraid it might not be quite accurate anymore, so I got another one, but I still keep that one because, you know, you can't throw anything away if you're me like that. Now, I throw things away all the time, but not sewing stuff. And then in this drawer, this one's a little bit messy still. I have my tracing wheels. I have some more flannel. I have these little pieces of cotton and muslin that I use like to start a seam. It helps keep your machine from getting the bird's nest. And then I have these little blades for, I don't know where that's at exact. Oh, no, yeah, right here it is. So this is a little blade that I use sometimes to seam rip. But it's a little scary because, yeah, I don't even have a blade in it. But these blades go with that. And then I have my serger hardware here and some more of my serger stuff back here. The little thread caps and spools and things. And then here I have the rest of those little scissors that I got everywhere and some more seam rippers. And I have all my needles in this one. And I'm going to take some of my needles and separate them and put some up by the other machine. But right now, I've got them all in here. And then just some doodads. And this is the tape measure. And this little, this is a great little Nancy Zeman tool to put elastic through casings. And then I have safety pins and just empty little boxes. The bobbins for my singer. And then I have this little, it's just an old medicine bottle, and it's got all my broken pins or broken needles. And I think I filled up one years ago, and now this one, I don't know if I did or not. This may still be the first one. I don't remember. But it's just got broken needles and stuff in it that I didn't want to put in the trash. So the other thing that I'll show you real briefly is my cabinet up here. And you've seen this if you've ever watched my other sewing room tours. This is all my books. I have quilting books and quilting patterns, and I have all kinds of sewing books and magazines. I keep all my Waywack catalogs for at least 6 or 8 months. And I have big sewing books, coats and jackets, the complete guide to sewing. I have all kinds of sewing books, and if you're ever interested in seeing any of those, I'd be glad to tell you about them. So this big wooden armoire thing that I painted a long time ago, I have a lot of my my pattern tracing pins and things in here, all my markers, and I have a lot of chalk and hand sewing stuff, pin cushions, and then I keep my, or right now at least, I keep my sewing clips. I have 2 different sizes of the sewing clips, and I have these that I had ordered from somewhere. They're like Clorox clips, like clothespins, but they're really strong, and I like them a lot to use in the sewing room. And then on the top shelf, I have my little light board and some strawberry fabric that came from somebody's stash that's gone now. And I've got some marking pencils and my strawberry mugs, and yeah, just the paint back there that I paint my rocks with. And pretty much just the same kind of stuff. I still have my spools of ribbon and some twill tape and things down here. And in this one, I have, I'm really bad at this video stuff. I'm really sorry. I have some, I think it's called wiggin. It's like just strips of bias. And I have some Velcro, and I have some heat and bond and some steam and just all kinds of little bits and pieces like that. So in these bottom drawers are all my patterns, all my McCall's and Simplicity patterns. And then in the bottom drawer, I have the patterns that I have made, like all my PDF patterns that I've made. So here on this end, it's really tight, but I have another bin here, and it's got like lace and some more trims and stuff. And then I have patterns here. Some I have made. This is the Tempo dress by Love Notions. And I have a lot of patterns that I have not put together yet, not stuck together. And on the bottom, that is embroidery. So that's embroidery floss and cross-stitch stuff. And this is interfacing and different scraps. And this is more patterns and some older patterns that I've got, like some Simplicity and McCall's that I've had for a long time. And I actually need to go through those. And then up here on the table, I have my pattern weights and my rocks, and you've seen those a million times. And here I have, so the receptacle, the plug-in is back behind my table. So I just got a long surge protector bar, and so that brought the receptacle up and gave me more places, and I can turn everything off and on with that one little button. And I've done the same here. I've moved the receptacle that's on the wall up higher by getting a plug bar. I don't know what you call that, power strip. And then it's got an on and off button at the bottom, and I can turn it off and on just with that one button. And then I did the same thing over behind my machines. I just put a power strip up here, so that way I have everything so I can turn it off and on easily, and you don't have to worry about individually turning on and off everything. So as you can tell, my room is still full. I do have more floor space. I have a lot more walking room, and my floor probably needs vacuuming, even though I've not been sewing. I just seem to attract stuff. I don't know. But anyway, it's still cluttered. It's still full, but it's what I needed it to be, and I'm very thankful. I'm just as thankful for it as I can be, and probably won't live long enough to ever use everything that I have in here, but somebody will benefit from it, hopefully, eventually, if I don't. So it's all good. It's all good. I hope to be back on Friday with a Friday Sews, and I'm also working on my Fabric Wheel of Fate makes. I've been so long, I've missed a month of sewing, and there's a lot of stuff going on in life. I will hopefully Friday give you an update on Salem. We've got a lot of stuff going on in the family. So I will update you a little bit on life on Friday. But today, thank you for watching. I appreciate it so much, and I hope that it's given you some kind of ideas, maybe about how you might want to store things, or maybe about what you don't want to do when you have a sewing room. That could be it too. But thanks so much. I appreciate all your comments, and I've tried to answer everyone. Sometimes I may be a little late doing that, but I do read every comment, and I'm so grateful. So remember, if you love to sew, and if you have a corner of a room, if you have a table, if you have any place that you can set up to sew and make things and be creative, don't ever give it up, because as long as you sew, you'll never have time or money to get into any trouble. Just ask me how I know. See you soon.